Good morning, everyone. Welcome on board of WCI's webinar. Today, we are celebrating the release of Wiola Davie's book, Rape, A History of Shame, Diary of the Survivors. We're very happy to have her with us. She has been doing this work for some years now. As you know, although the use of rape as a weapon of war is as old as the human civilization, it is often not recognized as a serious crime. Um, and it's really important that we recognize that for what it is. It is a crime against humanity, and that is why it's essential that the testimony of the survivors are here. And that is what Wiola has been collecting. And finally, the book is about to be released on September 10th. So we have with us today Wiola Davie, a psychoanalyst and an author, of course, and somebody who has been working with WCI for some time, and she is an expert in the field about transgenerational trauma of rape during war times. We also have with us Jean Celestine Lakin, who is also an author, and she has been um, um, she is a writer. She is a survivor of the Rwandan genocide, and she is also a public speaker, and she is a philanthropist as well. We also have with us Shirete Soleimani. She is a survivor of the Kosovo genocide, and she is an activist. She has a lot to share with us. Her story of courage has been inspirational to millions of women out there. We have with us today Shupriti Dhar, the chairperson of WCI and the editor of Women Chapter, a feminist portal that was launched in 2013 to give a voice to women of Bangladesh. So we also have with us Shujismita Shimonti. She works as an editor for the English section of Women Chapter and is also an activist, a very young and enthusiastic activist who has been an inspiration to many young girls out there. We will also be joined shortly with another survivor of the Rwandan genocide, Kansuli Nishimwe. She is also an author. So we really look forward to starting the event. I would start with Wiola. So Viola, we know that you have a very personal connection with this book. Apart from doing your research, you have started the research with the goal of making sure that the voice of the survivors are heard. So just in a few words, if you could tell us why is it so important to have the voice of the survivors heard and to have it out in the open for everyone in terms of healing them and the community that they belong to.
So the first, I would like to thank you guys for this great opportunity to meet with every one of you today. And thank you, Women Chapter International. Thank you, Supriti Dar. Thank you, Shumo. Thank you, Shushumita, for this great opportunity. And of course, thank you from the bottom of my heart to dear Jane Lakin and Shirete Suleimani and Consoli, who just joined us. Hello, Consoli. We just started and was waiting for you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so sorry for being late.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
So, trying to answer your question, I will try to do my best. Like, long story short, as you mentioned it, I am a psychoanalyst. So I used to work with sexual violence as a professional for a really long time. And I even wrote my master degree paper dedicated to this topic many years ago. So it was, the topic was always like something important to me, professionally, but also personally. I already mentioned a few times my personal connection to the story. My grandmother, who went through with Ravensbrück Nazi's camp, she was raped during liberation in 1945 on April 3rd. And she survived group rape during the liberation. However, this experience affected her deeply. And of course, she passed this trauma to the next generation. I mean, to my mom and to myself. So she shared with me this story after her stroke, when she was able to speak again after some time when she was unconscious. And I was shocked, even as a professional who understand this complexity of this topic. I was really shocked and deeply affected by her personal testimony. And for some time, I couldn't digest this information. I couldn't stand up and face the truth of this crime. And after a while, when I was able to start working on the field, I was working in Tanzania in the refugee camp. I was listening the first time in my life the testimony of the survivors of Rwanda genocide in 1994. And during this interview and this session, I realized how the story of my grandmother is deeply connected to the survivors of genocide in 1994. And I can say, like, since then, consciously, I started working on the field. I started collecting story. I started to conduct research. And when I moved to New York, a few years ago, I met Consolee on one of the Jewish events. And since then, I decided like to focus on this topic, just on this topic, rape during the war and genocide, and try to bring some attention to this kind of trauma, specific complex trauma. So that's the reason why this book is coming out pretty soon. I'm so excited and nervous at the same time. So I feel like this is my baby. I know this is an easy topic, and I know that's bringing a lot of emotion. However, I really feel like deeply connected to the topic, not only as a professional, but also as a person. This is also my healing story, my therapeutical approach toward myself. So I'm so grateful to everyone who contribute to this work. I really, from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you to all survivors who decide to join me with this journey, in this journey, Consolee, Jane, Sharetta, and many more, because right now I was able to collect over 200 stories. Of course, I wasn't able to put all those stories to the book, but my work continue, and I hope that's bringing more, will be bringing more awareness to everybody else. And I really hope like we can open up and understand the complexity of this difficult topic from many different levels, because this is about trauma, but also this is about social issue. This is about society. This is about stigma. This is about shame and many different topics. So thank you again for this event today. I really appreciate that. And I hope everyone will. Thank you.
Thank you, Wiola. You have done an amazing, outstanding work, and everyone in the field will be grateful. And this book, I'm sure, will be a milestone in the field, because it has such a global perspective, which has not been, frankly, present out there until now. So for now, if we go to Sharete to share your a little bit of your story and your connection with the book.
Good morning and good afternoon there, or good evening there. I'm not sure it's the time change. So I live in Canada here, and it's 9 o'clock in the morning. Thank you very much for inviting me. It was my pleasure to join the panel. And also, I want to thank Wiola for that wonderful, wonderful book, the courage that she had, and the courage that she had to gather all the stories, because when you gather the stories for the book, is painful too. It's not easy to write a book about this specific topic.
We love you, Sharetta.
I love you too so much. I do. I love you all. So when she asked me to give her the interview, I can say, I was nervous. I was happy, but I think I have so much connection with her, and it just made me feel so comfortable. And I am so excited about the book, and I hardly wait to read it. And I want to thank Wiola so much.
Can you share with us, dear Sharetta, your story? Because we, like people probably know something about the war in the 90s in Kosovo and old Yugoslavia, but I think for many of people it would be educational to know a little bit more about the context.
Of course. So the war started in 1999, and of course I'm going to say things that I am comfortable. We escaped to the camp. We lived in a camp for a year, and then we came in Canada. I joined Karatsata with director of Ferida Rushiti, and that she was the first person that I opened up. And like, she's so smart, I didn't have to tell her nothing, like she knew. I just said, I have to tell you something, and then she said, no, you don't have to tell me nothing. I know what. Yeah, I understand. Mm-hmm. So from that time, I think the war will take you somewhere that doesn't exist in this world. It's not normal. The brain doesn't work properly. It's just in a survivor mode, right? I'm saying to you, right? I'm not, but you don't know. Just the people that they've been through. Mm-hmm. So it was really, really hard. It was really hard for years and years and years and years. The shame, and that's why the book is the title is so important. The shame, because you feel ashamed. Mm-hmm. And we live in a society where it's difficult to digest. Mm-hmm. What they think and what they say. But I think it's very important if we focus on ourselves. I joined Karatsata with Ferida Rushiti as an activist and SEMA network with Dr. Madweg, Dennis Madweg. Like, I love to be a woman activist for this cause. It's so important. It never ends. Mm-hmm. Because this always repeats mm-hmm. itself. So I think the help that we should get is so important, because with no help is really difficult to go forward, especially when you are a mother and you have children. Because as we mentioned, it's just like you overprotect, you question yourself about decisions, and doesn't matter in a real, with no trauma, you always question yourself, I'm a good mother or I'm not. Can you imagine if you have a trauma, how you question yourself and you'll be overprotected, because always you get scared, you get nervous about your children. So with the help of Dr. Farida Rushiti, they have psychologists there. It was just amazing. They are just such a wonderful people. We've been through together a lot with my story, and it took me long years, many years, till I decided to go in the public.
Yeah. Thank you, Sharetta.
Thank you so much, Shirley. So now I will go to Consolee. As Shirley has told us, it's very painful. It's not an easy experience to share. But still, if Consolee, you would kindly share your story and your connection with the book, because we know that you have also gone through a very painful, traumatizing experience during the Rwandan genocide, and you have suffered so much loss. So if you could just share with us that.
Thank you so much, Shumu. I want to thank you very much, Wiola, for writing this book. Thank you so much. It really means a lot to be part of this panel. Oh, thank you.
That is your book.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be with you all, ladies. You are truly amazing. I love you all. Thank you so much, Shirin, for sharing your story. You are truly an inspiration. Thank you so much. I'm truly honored to be with you all. Thank you. It's really not easy, like Shirin said, sharing your story, especially when you've gone through this traumatic experience. That I remember when I met Wiola, we had a deep conversations. We immediately connected when she was sharing her grandma's story with me, and then I shared my story with her. And I really appreciated how what she was doing to make sure she tells the story of what happened, and the story of others as well. So, and immediately I felt like she's my sister, my soul sister. Love her. Yeah.
I felt the same.
And here with me and my fellow survivors and sister Jeanne, we are among the few in Rwanda who actually share the painful stories of what we've been through in 1994, genocide against the Tutsi, especially talking about rape we endured during the genocide. And I really feel like it's not easy. There are many of them who still carry that painful trauma within themselves. And for me to share this, it was therapeutic for me. So for me, it was not easy. It took me many years to get to a point where I was able to go deep within, allow myself to share this painful experience. But when I decided to share it, it was a beginning of my healing journey. But I felt like it was needed to also help other fellow survivors to be able to share their experiences as well. So when the genocide happened, I was very young. I was 14 years old. And I was born in the western province of the country, where I grew up with my parents and my 4 siblings. I was the oldest in my family. Unfortunately, during the genocide, I lost my three younger brothers, and my dad and many of my family members on both sides. My grandparents were murdered, my uncles and aunts and many others, cousins. And I fortunately I survived with my mom and my sister. But during the horrific experience during the genocide, rape was used as a weapon. And among many women and girls, was brutally raped. And as a result, I've been living with HIV. So it took me many years to get to a point where I shared that painful story. Of course, in my memoir, Wiola just showed, I shared details. It was, for me, it was a way of going deep within. That's what I did with my memoir, in my memoir. So to share that painful ordeal. I think it's important to talk about it. It's important to make sure the world know what we have endured and make sure the history is not forgotten. So that's why this morning I'm so honored to be with you, and I just want to thank you for having me. And it's an honor to be with you, Wiola, to celebrate you, to celebrate your amazing work. So thank you for having me. And I just want to give you back the mic, Shubu. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Consulee. We are extremely grateful for all of you sharing this painful part of your life. It's not easy. I know it's very painful, and no matter how many years have passed, it's when you go back there, it's just as painful. So we are extremely grateful that you are still sharing it with us. So now we are going to Jean for your story. You also went through a similar experience, and you were even younger than Consolee, I believe, at that time. So if you could just tell us a little bit about that. I know some of our viewers have heard your story, just like Consolee's, but still, we believe it's important to bring that story out there time and again. So please, Jean.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. I feel like I'm in a powerhouse right now. Powerful women just together, just joining hands for this topic. It is just, it's beautiful, it's needed. Wiola, we just love you. Like everybody has said, you are you're a vehicle for many people. You're a voice for the voiceless. And the courage that you had to share this story is going to go beyond, this nation and many others, just to let other women and men that this thing needs to be stopped. There's a quote that I love to share every time I speak. It says by John Hagee that says that it's basically that when we share our story, I'm going to paraphrase this, when we share our story, we can open somebody else's prison. And this is what you're doing, Wiola. You are giving that voice back to the women, back to the men who have been abused, who think like, I'll never come out and share this. So for me, again, just so honored. There's so much joy in my heart right now, just sitting here. Like Console and Shred, thank you both for sharing your stories. Thank you so much, so deeply, for being vulnerable enough to share your painful experience. But again, it goes to you are giving others a voice to speak, to share their stories. So my life experience was in the genocide it felt like like a blur. Like you really felt like it was this like 3 months that felt like forever, but also felt like it happened quick, because a lot of times when we're abused, we try to swipe things under the carpet, hoping that if we don't talk about it, if we don't recognize it, then somehow they will go away. So as a 9-year-old, I went through from Rwandan genocide against Tutsi people. I went from being this child that was taken care of, that had a lot of loving family members, that had a lot of, my parents did so well economically. So I felt like my life was safe. I had like this future that was bright. And when the genocide took place, and again, the planning was there. And like Consuelo said, the genocide was, rape was used as a weapon in a sense that the women were getting raped. And United Nations has documented that about 500,000 women were raped. And so again, like Consuelo, you my Shiro, because you started this journey of sharing, and I'm stepping into your footstep, because it's not easy. It's not easy to share. It's not easy to go deep to that place that is sacred, to share that abuse, because again, like all of you have shared, there's so much stigma, there's so much shame behind it. So when Consuelo started sharing, I started listening, and I was so encouraged to be able to speak about what I've gone through. So when not only did I watch my father being just butchered with machetes and clubs in the streets, I saw my mother's dead body through all of that. And after I survived all of that, I thought that's the worst, but it got even worse. And so with rape, I remember just going into this village. The mayor sent me to this village, and he said, well, this is a place where you're going to be safe. One of the things they used to say in Rwandan genocide was that they would say that they have forgiven girls and women, forgiven us for being who God has created us to be. So I was sent to this village, told that you will be okay. This is a safe place for women and young girls. So the mayor sends me there. I'm excited. That was almost like over 2 months into the genocide. So I've seen so much. I've listened to so many women being raped, being tortured, men and women, and children. And I get to this place with excitement because I knew I was going to be safe. And I got there. I didn't know really what a sense of rape as a child, as a 9-year-old. I didn't even understand the context or the concept of having intimacy, not at all. And the man who was the main, they called him the leader in the group, decided that, of course, they said, well, we'll kill you in 10 minutes, we'll kill you in 15 minutes. And I said, oh, okay. And at this point, I felt like I had, lost a whole lot in my life. And dying probably was the quickest way to end the pain. But then he brought me in, and there was another young girl in his house who was basically being raped day and night in his home. Kicks her out, and then I was the next victim. Then takes me to Congo. And there, it didn't stop. It was constant torture. And then, but there was one thing that I kept in mind, which Wiola, I love the cover of your book, The Red. My mother used to, it represents this rebellious in women, rebellious just in a sense. My mother used to say that I was one of her, because I was very rebellious, basically. I knew what I wanted. I knew how I wanted things. So as I was being, humiliated and abused, I told myself that someday, somehow, I will continue to tell this story until somebody listens to me. Mm-hmm. I just knew that he would not box me into this thing that I wasn't. And you ladies know this, when the perpetrators, what they do, they usually try to damage your self-esteem, try to damage your self-worth. Your self-image basically just gone. So I was told that I was this ugly thing, that I was never going to amount to anything. And that I felt like, in a sense, I said, I will tell I will not succumb to this thing that he made me to, this monster that he said I was. And so once I survived the genocide, and once I was actually about to get sold in the Congo. Wiola has been in Congo, knows how deep the country is. So walking from Rwanda to Congo, I was about to be sold there. And I said, no, not at 10 years old. God, you didn't save me so that I would be a slave. I was about to get married to a man who was, they gave the resources and they wanted to have me basically marry this man because of the, the position that he was giving in an exchange for me. I said, no, God, I don't think so. I don't think you walked me through this hell and back so that I can actually be married at 10 years old. So I ran back and I made it back to Rwanda. Started speaking about my life experience when I was in high school. United States has really given me an opportunity to heal, journey to really speak about these experiences. And Wiola, you know this too. And Shred, the more you speak, the easier it gets. At the beginning, I felt like I was choking up, as if I had like a golf ball in my, throat. But the more I spoke, the more I wrote about this experience, the easier it got. I mean, it didn't take away the pain, but it really got easier as I spoke about the events. I also know that there's a purpose. When we share, we empower other people to share their stories. So again, thank you so much for having me. Again, I feel like I'm in a powerhouse with powerful women in this room. Thank you for your advocacy. Our stories should not be forgotten, because there's so much that is happening. You read about Afghanistan. There's so much pain, imposed on women and children, and you are the vehicle to end this. So thank you so much.
That's a Jane book. Please see. That's her wonderful memoir and her story. So if you get a chance, same like a Consolé book, please get this and read it.
Maybe we'll share the link.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that people can buy
Yes,
this
like,
book.
yeah.
Thank you, Jean. I can't thank you enough. All of you, really. It's like you said, when we talk about the trauma, we empower the survivors, because those who cause that trauma take it for granted that the survivors will never speak. They will never come out and accuse them. And they take advantage of that silence. And I'm glad that you brought the topic of Afghanistan right now, what's happening over there. It is, we do not have probably the ability to comprehend what the women and the children are going through right there. So once again, thank you for sharing it. Now I will go to Supriti. Supriti, you have worked as a journalist and as an activist, and this has been one of the topics that you have written and talked about a lot. So if you could just share a little bit of your ideas and your view on the book.
Thank you, Shumu. But with the book, because I didn't read this book yet, but I know Viola, I know the stories, I know these people, Consoli, Gianni, and Shrita. So, and I know my stories, so, which, bring us together. So, Gianni is saying that we have to speak about this. We have to tell our stories so that other women can feel empowered and they can come up with their stories. So, and when I started saying my story, it's recently happened. Now I'm 53, 54 years old, but I gathered my all strength to tell my story, you know. It was too late for me. And I didn't have any psychiatric help, anything. So I went through a great trauma, big trauma, because in 1971 we had war, and Viola, you worked with Birangona, our women who were raped during the war, and it counts 400,000 women were raped. And of course, we didn't have any counseling, we didn't have anything, you know. Even it was uh, the whole society went against those women as if they did get seen in their life that they were raped by army. So of course it's a transgenerational trauma we are talking about this, and which I went through because I lost my father during the war in 1971, and I was only 3.5 years old at that time. So I lost my most beloved person at that time, and still now it haunts me, this loss. So it's another kind of loss. And in my childhood, when I was abused, sexually abused, I don't say that it's rape, but it was sexually abused, not only once, it was many more times. So still, you know, I can't, uh, how can I say that? It haunts me every time, and it didn't give me a normal life. So I struggled through all life. So this is very important to talk about this. Maybe when I started Women Chapter, I started it from my activism. So when we started talking about our taboos, rape, not only this rape, we have lots of different kind of rape, marital rape and other rapes. So we start about this topic, and I felt that I'm talking my stories. And when I edited other stories, I was feeling that it was my story. That's why maybe, you know, I feel so close to other people, other women who went through the same process, same trauma, same pain. So in my childhood, I was abused through my whole younghood. I was abused, and in my married life, I was marital raped. I was victim of this. So I don't know how looks, you know, women life, you know. So it's the whole life I went through a trauma. So that's why maybe I could connect with Viola's stories, that when I met her digitally, we met. Yeah, so when I came to know about her book and everything, I felt that I know Viola for a long time. Yeah, so she is also my sister, like Console was saying that. Yeah, we are soul sister, because I didn't see you. I didn't see anyone. So but we feel that we are together. And I, as a journalist, as an activist, I feel that we have to publish those stories. We have to talk about these stories, because you have collected 200 stories here in your book, but we have maybe 200 million stories. So I don't know how can we uh, minimize all stories, because we don't want to listen more stories like this. We don't want, but it's happening everywhere, every day, every minute, every moment. So maybe that's why I want to work on this trauma, on this topic. And so we are here to talk about. Thank you, Viola. Thank you, everyone. It was very, touchy. It's very touchy session for me.
Mhm. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Supriti. Like she said, it took her so many years to talk about it. And in fact, um, I have similar stories. And it was only after I got to know her, we became friends. And um, the first time I came out with my story of childhood abuse was when I wrote on Women Chapter on the portal. And it it took me my abuse started happening when I was 5 years old. From 5 years to 11 years, those 6 years, I was continuously abused. And in spite of seeing that with their own eyes, my family didn't believe me. And then when they kind of saw it happening, they were like, well, you must have done something to provoke him.
Mhm.
So it was really the only support system I had at that point was telling my story, and it took me a good three decades to do that. But and then when I read your book, I had the opportunity to read your one of your first drafts. Um, I could finally relate to a lot of the reactions, my physical reactions, my emotional reactions, my inability to connect in personal relationships, in interactions with other people, or how my mom reacts in certain social situations. So I think it's very important that we talk about those transgenerational or intergenerational trauma, because we don't know how deeply those things impact. So until we resolve them, it will continue to haunt us for generations, as you have shown in your book. And those are scientific studies that you have talked about. So I think it's important that we talk about them. So now I'm going to go to Shuchi Smita. She will share her perspective on this with us. Shuchi Smita.
Thank you, Shumu. Can everyone hear me?
Mhm.
Yeah, I would like to thank Shumu for giving me this chance to talk about this topic. And first of all, I feel very lucky that I'm on a panel with such powerful and incredible women. Like all of you are really strong, and yeah, I'm also quite young compared to all of you. I haven't read Viola's book yet, but I have been hearing a lot about it since past few months. I think it's really important. I did my master's in peace and conflict from Netherlands. So during that time, we had lots of articles on the impact of war on people. And every time I have come across this narrative, how the women were always, uh, not only they were targeted by the other community, because yeah, a woman is considered as property of her community. So attacking her means attacking her community. But what made me most sad was the fact that after the war is over, they are also stigmatized by their own community. So this woman had nowhere to go. And this also took me back to the time when one of my mother's friend had gifted me a book from Bangladesh. It's called Ami Birangona Bolsi. It's about the 1971 women survivors. And I felt so angry because always the blame comes to us as women. And I know a little bit about this from my personal experience while growing up in Bangladesh. When I was a child, I was sexually abused. When I was a teenager, I was sexually abused, but it took me a decade to speak about it. So I think this kind of work is really important because when I started working with Women Chapters English website, at first I didn't really talk about my own experience because I was still not ready to come out, but I was reading about this every day, and suddenly some of my friends were more interested to talk to me about their own experiences because they felt they can trust me. And it was not just women, but men as well. who said, I want to share something with you about child sexual abuse, which is a very big problem in Bangladesh. And eventually, through Women chapter, I found my own ways to come out, because for a decade, I felt like I'm living with a nightmare, a burden, that I didn't know how to deal with that anger and the fact that I have something that's always suffocating me. So I think this kind of work needs to be done more and more. Also, when I was doing my master's, I realized that there's not enough literature, and it's always through somebody else's point of view. We don't know the whole story. So sometimes I wondered about the survivors. How do they go about living their lives? So I think the work that you guys are doing is incredible, and I think it will encourage more survivors to, even if they don't speak up, at least they will find the courage to move on in their lives. And I'm really excited to read not just Viola's books, but also Consoli and Gianna's book. I have already ordered them, and yeah, I would like to share my thoughts once I have finished reading them. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shubhismita. It should be noted that she's also working on a book of her own. She has been writing on Women Chapter English for the past 7 years or so, and she's compiling her articles in a book. So we are expecting it to come out very soon. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on that. Now, if I may go to Sharete, you had some, you have also gone through some physical condition many, many years after your trauma. And in your testimony, you have indicated that you have somehow connected that to the trauma that you suffered during the war. As intergenerational and transgenerational trauma is connected to physical reactions, not only to the survivor, but throughout the generations, if it's not resolved or if it's not given the chance to heal properly. If you could just share a little bit about that, how the physical trauma has impacted your life, so that people can be aware of the physical impact of the trauma.
Thank you. I think physical impact, emotional impact, mental impact is all there. I have a saying that I always say, the pain never goes away. We just learn how to live with it. Because when you experience such a trauma, is such a horrible nightmare that if you have just a nightmare, you cannot forget the next day. And can you imagine if you're there? So if it's physical, if we talk about the physical impact, I had a breast cancer, and I'm a survivor of the breast cancer. So I think is because the trauma that your body fights is not just the mind, it's the body too. It goes and find a place where to explode. So that's number one. Number two, I had a miscarriage, and that is all from the trauma. I had a hysterectomy. In that procedure, in that operation, I had 7 procedures. So that is physical. But if we talk mentally, I think if we don't have help with a therapist, it will be horrible. It will be like, I forgot her name, that she said we didn't have no counseling. I had counseling for years, but I think maybe this is not in a topic right now, but children that they are abused, I think is so important every country to have a class, mandatory to teach from the grade 1, from the preschool, to tell them slowly about how they can protect themselves.
Thank you, Shirley, for sharing it with us, because it needs to be talked about. We do not talk about the physical trauma. We don't even talk about the abuse. So it's really important that we hear it out. I will now
Here,
go to
Shumo, can I mention something if you don't mind? So I would like to say like that when I was doing my research regarding this topic, of course, the most important for me, it was collecting the testimony from the survivors. But also I went through, I think like literally with everything what I was able to find out about this topic from medical, psychological, social, cultural and political perspective. And that's blown my mind, like the research is not showing a lot of understanding of this kind of specific trauma. For some reason, and I think after years doing this research, I think this reason is somehow related to this tendency sweep under the rug, like let's not talk about this specific experience and this specific trauma. Let's talk about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, what is describing some symptoms, but in the same time, PTSD is something what can experience a soldier who is on the war and survivors of sexual violence. And I think this is wrong. I am saying this wrong is not like the struggling with this kind of symptoms, but need to be some specification for people who are struggling from different reasons. And they finding different source of support or doesn't, because many of survivors, as we know already, they cannot find any support system when they are struggling with physical and also with mental problems. Few months ago, I was attending an online event led by F. Elsner, who is a huge supporter of the Congolese City of Joy, the Center for the Survivors in Bukavu. She was actually one of the founder of this specific treatment center. And she mentioned, and this program is running already, I think, like 12 years or 13 years. I think they know the most about how to navigate and how to work with war rape survivors. That's my plan, to go to the Congo and attend this as a volunteer, this entire program, to really learn how to work with survivors. However, they were mentioning like many of survivors are struggling with medical long-term consequences, as Shireta mentioned it. So, and what is for me is horrible, like nobody really put enough attention to these long-term consequences of this specific trauma. So they know already, doing some kind of observation, not even research, but some observation, like many of survivors struggling with breast cancer after a while, with the medical problem related to the feminine part, affected by cancer later on. And that is not some, like some bizarre coincidence. that need to be some research and carefully medical observation. What is the connection between this complex trauma, such as rape during the war? What is important, because this is two important elements, war and rape. So this is like already a complex trauma, and how we need to navigate and how we need to treat the specific consequences of these two traumatic events in long term. What is never done yet. That is like unbelievable, because we are struggling with this problem for decades, for 1,000 of years. This is nothing new. This is not something what's happened last 20 years. That is something what is related to the human history. And nobody really put attention to something what exists for this entire time. I'm so sorry that I was thinking like
No,
that's
it's
also
okay.
important to just mention like this research, and thank you, Sharetta, for sharing that. But I want to say like nobody really tried to understand this connection between the specific traumatic events and long-term medical consequences.
But sorry, I would just like to add about what Viola said. Sorry for interruption. So when you have physical problems after the trauma, and you go to the doctor and say, and example me, breast cancer. It was me, the only person in my whole family for generations. We never heard.
Yeah.
We don't know that somebody had the breast cancer.
Mhm.
So me, I knew something is related to that trauma.
Yeah.
So the doctor said, no, I don't think so. You see, so they are not
Mhm.
educated about
Yes.
They
this.
don't know
trauma.
about this. They don't
Yes.
know about. Yeah.
They don't.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharada. Mhm.
Nor they want to know. And if I may add another experience, I personally faced it. I have suffered from endometriosis. That went to stage 4. And I had to have a full hysterectomy when I was 37 years old. I had it for over 23 years. And it took me all that time just to get a surgeon who was willing to do the surgery. So while I was going from, I had to go to 11 doctors in a country like Canada before somebody agreed to do the surgery, because they were not taking it seriously. So while I found one doctor, uh, he gave me a statistics is that 1 out of 10 women in the world, across the world, suffers from endometriosis in various degrees. And a major, because nobody can pinpoint the reason why it happens. They can tell that certain stress and certain things make it worse. But one of the major reasons it happens is sexual abuse.
Yes.
So, and yet you don't see any major amount of research being done
Yes.
or money being allocated to that. While I came across a news item a couple of years ago where in Australia they were doing a research on how male partners of women suffering from endometriosis are affected psychologically.
Mhm.
So
Of
so
course.
that is society's
Yes.
stance in general when it comes to trauma that women suffer.
Yes.
Like, it's not important enough, we don't really matter. So that is what I hope that your book will change when people get to know more about the consequences. So now I'll come to Consoli. One of the things that struck me most about your story is that you, apart from going through the trauma of losing your family and losing the life that you knew until then, was that being raped by the person who was no other but your godfather. And you have said that at the age of 14, you felt stuck and you couldn't, you, and then you found out you were HIV positive. So, how did you, when you saw that people around you all of a sudden changed and the reality around you altered, for a 14-year-old girl, it couldn't have been easy. So, if you could just share how you, without any support, obviously at that time, because the whole country was going through this savage war, how did you deal with it?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Shumu, for the question. Actually, he was a neighbor, not a godfather. He was somebody that my family knew very well. So I've seen him when I was growing up. So, um, and it was for me at that young age, going through that traumatic experience, and then now you have to live with it for many years, and it was not easy for me. I'm one of the many, and it was very hard for me to. I remember when I used to go to school, everything was just, images of what I've been through. And at that time, it was because of the stigma, attached to rape, and many women would not talk about it. And then the fact that the only person that I was having a conversation with what happened to me was my mom. And she knew, of course, she knew or what happened. So, and the only way for her, so she was so painful. She carried my pain as well. So, and thankfully, because I had her, like Jeanne, who didn't have a parent. So it was not easy. She had to carry that trauma on her own. So, and for me, thankfully, I'm one of the few, at least, who have a parent. But at the same time, I had to live to live with that pain alone. So within myself. So, and over the years, when I was trying to suppress the feeling of pain and all the things I was feeling within myself, it was affecting me. So they were affecting me. And I felt really, and I cried many times without showing anybody and trying to hide it because I didn't want that, people ask me why you're crying and all that. So I tried to hide it. So as much as I could, with friends and, people that I went to school with, and it was not easy. It was not easy. And I didn't have the words to describe what I was feeling, and not even having that space, safe space to share what I was feeling within myself, which was not available for all of us. And like you were mentioning earlier, so, and it was like increasing over the years. So I was young, I needed to be happy. I need to live a joyful, teenage life like anyone else. But I was trying so hard to to show that I'm normal, like everybody else. But and it was very hard for me. And many nights I didn't sleep. I cried many nights, and I was always praying every day that hopefully one day I will wake up feeling different. So hopefully it would be like a dream. Hopefully what happened to me will be like a dream. So then I'll wake up normal and happy girl as I was before the genocide. So, and it was hard for my mom, but we didn't also, even though I was saying I spoke with my mom, but at the same time we didn't express in words, like those painful things. She was trying to comfort me, but not necessarily speaking in, like expressing in words what it was. She was afraid herself to even probably, talk about that. So, and I remember when I came here, I thought maybe it would be, maybe since I'm no longer in Rwanda, hopefully it would disappear. That's the thought that like Jeanne was saying, like everybody, think that will happen. But of course, as time went on, it was affecting me. My health, Of course, living with HIV, I got very ill because of that. So, and I realized, thankfully, having great doctor, having, finding the right people, I would say that it was a miracle for me to find those people. I would not have been able to be here if I didn't find those people. So, and they realized that even in my family, except my mom, everybody was afraid to even approach that topic because they were trying so hard to make me feel like, oh yeah, you can, just move on, move on, move on. And it was affecting me. They didn't realize how bad it was affecting me. And I thankfully I found the right people therapy, which was really, really helpful for me. And the therapist managed to help me find the right words to talk about it, especially that for me, in my culture, we don't talk about our bodies. I'm sure in many cultures as well. So, and this incredible human being who is, I would say, like godsend, helped me to find the words without even like forcing me to say what they want me to say. Like they will help me, they will listen to me. I think kindness really helped me in that journey. So just without judging the way I was talking about what happened. So until I find the right way to share I find my own way to describe every painful thing that I was carrying within myself. So to me, when I went to therapy and the right doctor, that's when I really began to feel like different. And I've never heard anybody really telling me anything about therapy. It was just a miracle to even find the doctor who told me about therapy. And trying something I've never heard, nobody has ever told me anything about it. So, and I just trusted and became vulnerable and just allow myself, in a way, I would say it was a miracle, allow myself to go through that process. And it really prevented me from really getting all kinds of other illnesses probably I could have gotten. And then my journey, that's where my journey began to heal, to start that painful journey. Of course, it's not easy when you talk about it and you just go through the painful, journey. But at the same time, I felt like it was like a load lifted off my shoulder. And then I used to be quiet, but then I started talking. Now I feel like I'm talkative. I just feel like I enjoy being with people. There's somehow, everything changed. My whole body changed. Whatever I was getting sick from, it kind of stopped, started to stop. And then now I feel I'm truly grateful. It could have been worse if I didn't go through that, path of meeting the right person to help me. So that's why I really encourage anyone to seek help, to seek therapy. And it's important to talk about it, to help those who cannot afford to go through and to talk about it, especially that it's not a topic. Everybody avoids it. There are many people who don't want to talk about it. Even within the families, people just avoid it. They just don't want to talk about it, don't want to hear it. So, and that's really, that's why I really, I appreciate you being with all of you. It gives me strength and more courage to talk about it. So it's up, like my sister Jeanne said, it's a powerhouse. I feel I'm with powerful women. Powerful women. I feel more encouraged and really let's keep doing this. I know there are many women who need our help, our support, and thank you. And Wiola, your book is the work you're doing. This is going to help a lot, and hopefully the leaders and those policymakers are going to do something to change laws and able to make sure that this is talked about and it changes. So we don't want to hear more stories like ours. So yeah.
Shumu, can I make some comment?
Of
To
course.
thank you so much, Constantly, for everything what you said. I think this topic related to language is extremely important, because to start this healing process, we need to use our voice. Meanings like we need to start using own individual narrative to share our story. And I was just amazed and stunned when I realized, listening to the survivors, like in many languages, they don't have a word which is describing rape itself. Even a few weeks ago, we met with Consoli and we was talking like in Kinyarwanda, a rape as a word, what is describing this kind of experience doesn't exist. So the question is like how to talk about, like the survivors is going through already with many obstacles, physical problems, mental problems, family problems, trauma related to the displaced, to losing family, and then to this major problem related to language. How to start this process, like many languages, is not allowing even, like in this language level, it's impossible to describe. Like in Rwanda, one of my survivors from South Sudan, she told me the story about her experience. Like she, of course, went with this horrific rape experience, group rape experience. Then she was in refugee camp, and then she was lucky enough to move to Norway. And she said, like for her, it was really therapeutical to find in Norwegian language the word what describing this specific experience. Since when she find out like her own experience, she can put in some word and everybody know what she is talking about. And that is the fact. She felt like huge relief, and that's helped her to move on with her own journey of healing. And I think that is something what we need to be aware of. Like listening to the survivors is allowing them, of course, to share with us a story, but also allowing them to build this individual narrative, what is absolutely necessary to start this healing process. But also we need to be aware, like many languages, and I think that is not coincidence, like many languages, that's mean many culture, is not allowing this woman narratives about sexual violence, especially about rape during the war.
Thank you, Viola. That you brought in an excellent point. The politics of language. In your book, you have indicated that in Poland, when the Nazis did these experiments on the slaves, the slaves were identified or referred to as rabbits. So all across the globe, we saw that this type of there is a play with language to kind of trivialize or uh, like extremely glorify the status of these women rather than facing up to the reality of what they went through. For example, in Poland's case, they were referred to as rabbit. In Korea, they were referred to as comfort women. In Bangladesh, they were referred to as birangana, where they were kind of given that status of birangana, which if you translate it, it kind of literally means heroines, but in reality, they were kind of isolated and put away from the main society. And in many cases, it has been documented that they were given a stipend by the government. So their family members came and collected the stipend and left without even so much as meeting them. So that is what we tend to do. We kind of trivialize or extremely glorify the status of these women by playing with the language, and this politics has gone on forever. So now I would come to Shupriti because she has seen this in her work as a journalist and activist. Do you think it has been 50 years since the 1971? Do you think our attitude towards the Biranganas have changed, or do you think our current tendency to um, towards the culture of misogyny and the culture of rape that is happening in Bangladesh right now, do you think it is kind of a reflection of the mentality that we had towards women back in those days?
Of course, because that uh, towards the first question was towards Birangana and the attitude towards Birangana, but it has not changed, never ever. So they were abandoned by the society, by family, and everywhere. So we didn't talk about them for a long time, for many years. And then when we started talking about them, and the word Birangana came forward, that Birangana, it like synonym of stigma. So yeah, so we didn't talk about this, and we didn't recognize those women even that they exist in our society. And it's a great trauma for our country, because I always say that after war, we have to go through different type of trauma, not only rape and other trauma also. So, and the country has to go through the therapy, psychotherapy, and other things, but we didn't have time, and they didn't think about these politicians and other people. They don't know about this. So rape, it's like it's a women issue. So they don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are not comfortable talking about rape and those things. So it took so long time for me also to talk about. When I started talking, and everyone is in my family, they say that why after so many years you were talking about this, as if my trauma has gone, as if I'm normal now. No, I don't see any normality here. And what is happening in the second question, because our country, our system is very much patriarchal, misogynist system. So they count women not human being, it's women, So what is happening in the present time, maybe Viola has seen that we are protesting so many things, and yeah, of course, it's a very much patriarchal society, how they are relating our lives, with the society, and how they treat us. And as if, that we are not human being, we don't have any rights. And I don't know how to explain all those things, because I'm so angry what is happening in this moment. I can be angry only because I don't have any solution of this problem. And not only me, we are who are protesting against those things what are happenings in Bangladesh. We are being also, like they're they're comparing us like criminals. So we are doing criminal things, and so it's I don't know, Shumo, you know better because it's a big problem to fight all those demons,
Thank you, Shupriti. Yes, I agree. Like it's right now, we are protesting because if you're aware of the situation in Bangladesh, it's there's a huge trend towards Islamization and taking away the rights, even the rights that women had 50 years ago when we were fighting for liberation, even those rights are no longer there, or they exist on paper, but they're being taken away. So it's not safe to be a woman right there, right now. So and that is another reason we need to talk about these things. And I believe that when a big part of this is because when that trauma happened 50 years ago, as a nation, we never talked about it. We never healed. We never dealt with the psychology of the perpetrators. Instead, we projected the blame on the women who survived the trauma, and that psychology kind of got ingrained into the patriarchy, and those patriarchal people are at the helm of power today. So that I believe that is one of the reasons that we are going through this right now. I will go to Jean now. You have written your book, and one of the things that struck me about that is, in spite of going through all that tragedy, for a 9-year-old girl who had to go through seeing your entire family being butchered in front of you, and running away and hiding, and being raped, being trafficked, and even when you were adopted by a family, you were still abused. And in spite of all that bitter experience, when one reads your book and when someone sees you today, there is a positive, and I'm saying that about, it can be said about everyone, uh, every one of you who are with us today. But Jean, I would like, there's something about the language that gives me that impression that um, being so young and being so impressionable, you were still able to deal with that trauma in a way that didn't leave any permanent scar of bitterness within your soul. So how did you manage to do that? I think that is, as we don't get much support from the society or community, and we're shamed for being the victims the rather than being the perpetrators who are blamed for the crime. I think it would benefit everyone if you shared that. How did you manage to hold on to that light in spite of all the darkness?
Thank you so much, Shumu. Ladies, it is just so great to be here. I'm just so very grateful to be here. I feel like we're in therapy session right now, just being together, just hearing everyone's experience, and just kind of pulling strengths from one another. It is just so powerful, and I cannot say enough how grateful that I am. Shumu, that is such a great question. I usually go back to two reasons really, like I feel like that saved my life. One was forgiveness, and the other one was really looking at the perception of people who try to impose these the words or whatever that they say about me, trying to really look back and say, this is who I really am. So starting with forgiveness, for me, it was a journey. It was a very long journey. I remember coming back into Rwanda from Congo, and I was a homeless kid. And I remember just people walking by and go, oh my gosh, what a cute homeless little girl. And I'm looking back 6 months ago, 6 months in, it was 6 months after the genocide, thinking to myself, within 6 months ago, I had a family, I had a place to call home, I had a loving family. Now I am a homeless kid. I am the kid who is picking from the dumpster. I'm the kid who's, flies and lices just scattered through my, clothes and my hair. I was just this dirty kid. And so my mother was a very spiritual person. She was a Catholic, she was a Christian, and both my parents. And I remember one of the things they used to say was that my mother used to reference this Bible verse, which was say, if you forgive, then God will forgive you. And if you have a bitter heart, God is not going to listen to your prayers. That's, for those who are Christians. And as a child, I took that really deeply to the heart. I felt like, okay, so I need to make this thing right so God can listen to me, so that God can forgive me, because I was still a mess. I had so much anger, had so much bitterness. And trying to use my beautiful mother's words to forgive the same people who killed her was just almost like impossible. There was no way for me to get myself to forgive. And I know a lot of people think that, when we forgive, we're giving a pass to somebody who has harmed us, or we minimizing the abuse that they've done to us, or we are saying that what they've done is, it's the punishment is not the same, or it's not equate to the punishment. But I worked on forgiveness for years. I said, I was in this place where I felt like my heart was so heavy. My heart was just, I tell people that I felt like I was in a dungeon that was just dark room. I was that kid that used to enjoy the simplest things. I'll go outside, and if the sunshine was out, and I feel like this joy in my heart. I would see flowers and feel this joy in my heart. I would see people and have that real interaction with people and feel so lifted. And then after the genocide, there was no way. I felt like all of those things. I didn't even know how to laugh, how to smile. So I began this conversation with God, and I said, I don't think, again, you saved me. For all of these months, I went through such hell and back so that I can leave this dark place. It's Nelson Mandela who said, after he was out of prison, who said that, and again, I'm paraphrasing it, he said, he could have stayed. As he was walking out, he said, I would have stayed in prison if I did not forgive. Yeah, he was free. That was me. Nobody was hunting for me. Nobody was chasing me with machetes. I was free, but I was still in that prison of my mind. So I said, God, work on this heart. I don't know how to forgive. I don't know. I don't even think I have the capability to be able to do these things. And I know you require of me to do so. So give me the strength. I remember exactly where I was sitting, and it took years. And of course, I took time to mourn my family. I felt like it was the right thing to do. I took time to process and understand what I just have gone through in terms of like sexual abuse as well. I remember where I was sitting, and I felt like somehow God just said, forgive them. There was through the Holy Spirit, forgive them. And it was almost like, really, God? How? How do I do this thing? How do I forgive such act of inhumane? How do I do this? And I really said, you know what? I'm going to be obedient. If you want me to forgive, you give me the strength, I will do what you want me to do. I remember saying to myself, I forgave you for raping me. I forgave you for 1 million innocent families that you've killed. I forgave you for all these inhumane things that you've done. And it was almost in that same breath, I felt like God was speaking to me saying, pray and bless them. And for that one, I was like, God, you're kind of funny. You're a joke. Let's pray. When we are harmed, when somebody causes so much pain, to us, especially the deep pain of sexual abuse, taking away a family, killing somebody you love so deeply, it's almost impossible to pray and bless them. That the last thing we want to do is pray and bless this somebody. Instead, we want to condemn them to hell, right? And so I say, okay, God, I am obedient, but I need you to guide me. I need you to pour this energy in me to be able to do this thing that I know that it's almost like moving a mountain, and I don't have the power to do this thing. And ladies, when I say I was able to pray, and I said, I know what they've done is horrible, but I know if God can forgive me for all the things that I've done, and if God says, forgive so I can forgive you, forgive me, then I need to do this thing right. When I say I prayed for them, I pray and say, God, see through their hearts so that they can come to you and make it right with you. Bless them that they feel your blessings, that whatever you have in store for them, that they'll be able to experience that, whatever that is. I tell the audience that I felt like literally lifted up as if I was flying. I felt like the doors of possibilities, potential that I felt that were somehow locked and taken away, they were opening. I was still an orphan, on this, still surviving, trying to survive. But there was this joy only God can pour in my heart. So that's one. Forgiveness really saved me. The other thing that I done, the journey that I've taken was a lot of affirmation for years. I told myself that because again, like I shared before, the abusers, the perpetrators impose these things of like really destroying your spirit, destroying your self-image, your self-worth is just sort of like squashed. So I told myself, I am not what you tell me that I am. I am not I am not ugly, I am not stupid, I am not worthless, I am not all these things you are telling me that I am. I'm not a cockroach, I'm not a snake. And, I also avoided, which is funny. For those of you who have read my book, there's this family, auntie and uncle, that I met in Washington State when I went to school. I was attracted to those people because of they looked at me, even though that I have lived such a crazy life, they treated me like a normal kid. And I loved people who would just listen to me, like Wiola was saying, and Consuelo. Sometimes we just need somebody to listen, and they just listened, and they didn't try to put me in this box. They saw my strength, they saw my resiliency, and they just treated me like a normal kid. They didn't give me a pass that, in terms of succeeding in school. They didn't give me a pass. If it was a job that I didn't want to do or have excuses, they said, no, you're doing this thing. So that type of a lot of times people victimize others without knowing, unknowingly, or they know they're victimizing us because they want to take us back to that place where we have been. So I avoided those people who were trying to pull me back. You're just this poor kid who you're abused, you've been abused, all of that. I didn't want to hear that. I said, I've worked on myself. I wanted to move forward. And I just want to see other people to see that. Not that I somehow didn't consider what happened to me. Like I said, I just really took time to mourn for my family, to really see through the experience that I've gone through. But as Consuelo mentioned too, as Shreda, I did do counseling. My sweet husband, I felt bad for him. When I met him, he said, "You need counseling," and I said, "Well, what? I got this figured out." But he said, "No, honey, you can talk to me all day, but I'm not a counselor. You need professional help." Talking to somebody is a good thing, but having professional help is even extra. It really walks us through the process and understanding. I used to have sweaty hands. I used to have migraines, and I had so many medication for my migraine. I was sexually being abused, but then taken to the hospital because I had migraines, and nobody can pinpoint why I was having migraines. And so when I had sweaty hands, my husband was like, "Yeah, I'm signing you up for counseling." And my first time going into counseling, ladies, was I started sharing my story. And this woman looks at me and she said, "Well, you can traumatize somebody by sharing these things." And I felt, oh, well, I will never go back to counseling. But my husband again said, "No, maybe that's not one for you. You need to find somebody who is for you." I usually say when we go into counseling, when we go into this professional help, don't get the first one and go, okay. It's almost like finding a relationship. So find somebody that works for you, somebody you click with, somebody who you feel like really is there to guide you, that's somebody who can understand you. Because it's that relationship that helped me with my, I did EMDR, and this woman was just powerful. She said, yeah, you're feeling these things, and this is the reason. So ladies, look into EMDR, go for counseling, speak about this experience, because again, you open so many doors for other women, so many other men who have gone through this abuse, because the perpetrator, again, thinks that if you don't speak about it, they get a pass. They get this, they're free to continue to cause such damage. So again, ladies, I so appreciate all of you. Thank you for being the voice. Thank you for having this platform so we can all empower others.
Thank you so much, Sean. I am very, very grateful for that. It's a very important point. And I would like to just add to that that the reason that in this 21st century rape can still be used as a weapon of war is because of that shame factor attached to it. It's because it's a shame to the survivors and the men who are considered the guardian of those survivors. It's a matter of honor for them to give shame to the survivors and their guardians. Rape is used systematically. So once we can take away that shame from the survivors and put it back to where it belongs, to the perpetrators, we can really come somewhere where it can no longer be used as a weapon of war. So I will go to Wiola to give her thoughts and to end today's discussion. We got a lot of input from you, wonderful women, very courageous women, and we are so grateful for going through this very painful topic and sharing your stories. And now, if Yola could just tell us a little bit more about how we can really get this discussion about transgenerational trauma and healing it out there so that people can come to a point where it's no longer a shameful thing to discuss, and then we will maybe begin to heal as a community.
I just want to say one word, because Gian said that it's powerhouse. Yeah, when we are together, we feel powerhouse, power within ourselves. I want to say that you all are torchbearer. So you are showing light to other women. So we have to continue this showing. So talk and talk again. Thank you so much. Yeah, I will go. You can continue and then end it. Okay, thank you so much.
So I am so grateful to all of you, and I feel deeply moved by this event today. And I am so grateful for all stories, for your vulnerability, for your openness, for your sensitivity, for your understanding, for your ability to even think and try to forgive, what I think is just for me like an amazing. I still cannot really imagine how to forgive after this such a crime, and I am not in the moment in my life when I am thinking of all this crime to thinking about forgiveness. I deeply appreciate you, Jane, with your ability to consider this, special skill, maybe special understanding of the situation, because I feel a lot of resentment towards perpetrators. I feel huge anger. I feel disagreement. I feel like I need to fight more than understand. even their side. I get one time opportunity to talk to the perpetrator in Rwanda, and I made conscious decision like I am not doing it anymore. Even I am a clinician and I want to know the other side, because cruelty has normal face. This is nothing special. The perpetrators, they are normal people. They are just living in our society, and they are doctors, they are priests, they are United Nations workers, and they are committed a crime. So I really feel like that need to be carefully we need to work on this part, but that's not my job, and I don't feel like I can do it. And I think somebody need to pick up this topic and work on this cruel part of our nature. However, I still think we have this tendency, and that is so special to see this kind of human ability, like you, John, like you, Consolate, like yours, Sharetta, to really digest this kind of level of cruelty. So I hope all this kind of work, what we are doing, trying to bring some awareness, trying to discuss from many different perspectives, many different levels, the consequences of rape during the war is changing social perception, what need to be changed. And that is our major work right now, to really bring awareness, like we need to know and understand, like a war is happening all the time, and every war is bringing rape. That is a twin combination. One doesn't exist without another part. So when we're talking about situation in Afghanistan, we're talking about rape already. When we are talking about civil war in Ethiopia, we are talking, of course, what Amnesty International already bringing to our conscious. We are talking about mass rape in this area. So, and that will be continue if we will try to avoid this topic, if we'll try to don't listen, if we'll try to say to the survivors, move on. How we can move on after such a crime? We need to heal. We have to understand. We have to find some space to really digest these traumatic events, use therapy, go to the doctor, or try to reconfigure our life, and then maybe we can somehow try to move on, or maybe even try to start this really special process of forgiveness. But this is a long process, and my book and my attempt is still focused on awareness, because people, they are really they don't want to know about the consequences of rape, not even from the transgenerational trauma. I was a few weeks ago, I was interviewed for the biggest Polish feminist journal about my history, about my grandmother, about situation in many different places, and of course about my book. And I was overwhelmed, really literally overwhelmed by response. I received a lot of emails, messages from people who were saying to me, finally somebody, after 75 years since the Second War, we can start discuss this topic. I remember my grandmother, I remember my mother, I remember the story. Nobody really went through with understanding what's really happened during the Holocaust, and the rape during this time is still a shameful secret for many of people. So I really hope like we can somehow, maybe slowly, but start doing some prevention work for the next generation, and of course for ourselves and our kids and other people.
Thank you so much, Viola. It's really wonderful to hear from you. I think Jean wanted to say something to that. Jean, the floor is yours.
I am just so honored and proud of Wiola. This path that you've taken is, I can see, and I hope I won't make you cry. Your
Yes.
grandmother's, yeah, your grandmother is sitting in heaven smiling down upon you, because not only you sharing her story, you are going to empower so many other to be able to heal. And by healing, I mean by speaking, it's a journey of healing basically. So thank you so much for being able to do this. I can't wait to read your book. And I'm holding tears because there's so much excitement that you're beginning to have this conversation. You're going to be, this book is going to be in hands of people who have no clue what it feels like even after the abuse has happened. So we're so very grateful. Shumu, I know this has taken a lot of time to plan and prepare, but your work goes beyond as well. Your work, I think of that story where this little kid just like picks up starfish and throws it back in the sea. And this man walks by and goes, well, you're not making a difference. But guess what? If you can save one life, that's enough. If you can give one woman a voice, that is enough. So the work you ladies are doing is so important, so powerful. So I'm so grateful for all of you. Love you, my sister Console. Like I said before, I am stepping in your footsteps. You spoke and I came after you. So thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Now you're gonna make me emotional and make me cry. Yes, we are so blessed to have all of you, the powerhouse. Um, this initiative, WCI, was created to give those voice who don't have one of their own. So thank you everyone for just doing that here today. And Viola, if you can give us, I know the book will come out officially on September 10th, and it'll also be available for pre-order. So if you can give us a link, we would be sharing it on our site. And also we're looking forward to Jean's next book and Shuchi Smita's book as well. Yes, we will all stay in touch with Consoli and Charite for so that we can continue on with this work. And thank you, Shupriti Diye, as always, for putting up with me and Shuchi Smita too. And thank you everyone for being the center of my strength. You guys have made a difference. Thank you, everyone. And to our audience, please keep following us through our Facebook page. And we are coming out again with another interesting event in mid-September. So stay tuned and we'll give you the update on that soon. All right. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day or evening. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Love you, ladies.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Love you.
Love you. My Viola, my beautiful princess.
Ciao,
Bye,
Viola.
Shirata.
Bye.
Bye.